Hello, and welcome to this episode of Experience Matters, our series covering customer experience, employee experience, the role that AI is playing in shaping those experiences, and pretty much everything in between. I'm your host, Shelley Kramer, Principal Analyst here at Kramer&Co. And today we're going to talk about Zoho's move to tackle the challenges faced by enterprise finance and operations teams with the release of its enterprise billing and spend management applications. To set the stage here a little bit, from an enterprise operational standpoint, when it comes to billing and spend management, complexity is the name of the game. Customer management needs, varying and quickly changing pricing models, tax regulations, and compliance matters all play a role and in many instances deliver no small amount of headaches. Similarly, enterprise spend management operations are incredibly complex, often requiring tons of manual work across travel, expense, payroll, and procurement processes. All of those things are my very least favorite things. So finding solutions that make those easier make me very happy. But this is where Zoho's newest application launch news announced late last week come in. Zoho Billing and Zoho Spend Management were designed to help streamline processes in operations and finance. So today, I'm joined by Zoho Global Head of Finance and Operations, Civa Iswaran, to talk through some of the challenges enterprises have on the finance and ops front and explore these latest offerings from Zoho. Welcome. I'm so glad to have you.
Thanks, Shelley. Thanks for having me on the show.
Abs-
Pleasure talking to you.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, I would love it to, if you would just kind of share a little bit about your career journey, your backstory, if you will, and kind of introduce yourself to our audience.
Sure. So I am Sivaramakrishnan Iswaran. Bit longer name, difficult to pronounce. So people generally call me Civa. That's a shorter version of the name. So I have a degree in mathematics and finance, and I started my career in Zoho long ago. Somewhere in the mid to late 90s. In Zoho, I've been doing various things. In fact, my career in Zoho started with implementing a telecommunication protocol, nothing to do with finance, nothing to do with billing or spend
Yeah.
or procurement. So that was my first product. It started with implementing a telecommunication protocol, and then we switched to network management. From there to enterprise IT management. In fact, before getting into finance, I was working on something related to wireless security. So that's what we were doing as a team. A lot of ups and downs in the company. Zoho has seen a lot of things, and few products clicked, few products did not. Unfortunately, the wireless one that I worked before getting into finance did not click. So we were looking at ways to move forward, and that is when I thought instead of running behind what is the latest and the greatest, we should actually get into something which actually for which there is a perennial need in the market. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's how I got into finance. So wireless, if you had seen, it was very hot, particularly Wi-Fi during 2002, 2003 time frame.
Oh, yeah.
So that's the reason why we got into it. But unfortunately, that product didn't click, and that's the reason why we thought instead of doing something which is very hot, we need to get into something which for which there is a perennial requirement. So that's why we got into finance, things like billing, accounting, payroll, inventory management, and all this. And fortunately, this has been working extremely well for us. We have been seeing excellent traction for these products in the market.
Yeah.
We are not stopping there. We are getting into a lot of other things including fintech to various things in banking. So that's about my career.
Excellent.
Interesting.
So you touched on this just briefly, Siva, but talk with me a little bit about those customer challenges that I know that you see and hear about on a daily basis. What are Zoho's customers most challenged by when it comes to finance and operations?
See, the problem with the finance and operations is the solutions that you have in the market. They are not completely integrated. You have a lot of solutions, but they solve some specific problems. There is no integrated suite of products. That's the biggest challenge that the customer face.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are a few integrated solution, but that is generally out of reach of the customers because of the pricing reasons, the cost, and other things. So the biggest
So,
challenge the customer face is a lack of integrated suite of products. So disjoint set of products which do some specific task well. Now the customers have to juggle between these tools or products, and then they have to do the integration, a lot of system integration effort and all those things. This is the
got
biggest
it.
challenge, and that is exactly what we set to address.
Okay. So this lack of integration means that users are hopping between different applications from different vendors. The tech stack is somewhat crowded, and I think maybe there's a bunch of time that's spent going back and forth between applications that aren't connected. But it's not just the time; it's the data that you have access to as a result, right? I mean, doesn't
Yes.
all of that play a role there?
Yeah. So see, when you have a bunch of applications, right, the data actually remain in silos, right?
Right.
Now, actually integrating all this data and making sense out of it becomes very difficult.
Yeah.
So, take the latest advancement, the AI advancement. If you really have to use a AI engine, then the system of records has to be proper and it has to be well integrated so that the AI engine can actually work on the data and give you a lot of insights.
Right.
But on the other hand, if you are actually using a lot of pointed tools or specific tools, then the data actually remains in silos, and it will be very difficult for the AI engine to look into all these
Yeah.
data, make sense out of it.
Yeah. Well,
So that's the biggest challenge.
that makes perfect sense. So, Siva, before we dive into Zoho's applications on spend management and enterprise billing, let's talk first about the company's overall ERP vision and specifically how Zoho plans to differentiate itself in what is really a mature and somewhat crowded space.
Perfect. So if you actually want me to define as to what a modern day finance is, I will say it's an interplay between the business software. And when I say business software, I'm including all the software. And for a lack of better term, I may actually use the term ERP
Right?
because people very quickly relate to what ERP is. So it's an interplay between ERP and the fintech or the financial services, various products that you have for the fintech or the financial services, and the banking, right? So we see it as an interplay between all these things, and we actually get in and power a lot of these things. When I say power, we actually do it ourselves, and then we facilitate a few things. Like say, for example, banking, right? We are not a bank, but we can always have or a deeper integration with the bank, and then we can actually power a lot of things, right? So we power and facilitate a lot of things. So this is how we actually look at modern day finance.
Okay.
Again, we do a lot of things in the ERP, starting from various things in billing to spend management to accounting, tax and complaints, inventory management, commerce, payroll, HR, and all this to facilitate the finance and operations.
Mm.
Similarly, in the fintech space, we get in and do a lot of things. Like, say, for example, we have Zoho Payments, which is the flagship product in that space. So we facilitate collections for our customers. That is, the merchants who sign up for our products, we help them collect money from their customers. Not just collections, we also help in the vendor payouts and
Right.
various tools to help on the credit side and all those things. And when it comes to banking, we have a deeper integration with various banks in different countries, different geographies. We have integration with different banks, so we go deep. So it's not just a superficial integration of just pulling out the balances, showing the statement. So we do a
Okay.
lot more. So we contextually integrate with the bank. So as you know, we have a lot of products, right from billing to spend management to payroll to various other products. So in each of these products, we actually identify as to what are the areas we have to with the bank with, and then we integrate in those areas. There are like 15 to 20 different touch points with the bank and the ERP. So that's exactly what we do. We integrate in all these areas and make the life of the mutual customer easy. So we go all the way, like right from helping the customers create a bank account to getting the balances, fetching the statement, doing automated recon to various other things. So if you actually look at it, there are players who are strong in each of these spaces. Like say, for example, you take ERP, right? You know, like there are prominent players who are very strong in that area. Similarly, players who are very strong in the fintech or the financial services space, and you have banks which are strong. But the biggest challenge today is all these players look at these in isolation, right? I would say
Okay.
globally, Zoho is one of the players or the only player who actually looks at all these three pieces together, making it an integrated suite, solving a lot of problems for the customers and giving them a huge benefit while doing this.
Okay. So that's the differentiator, is that you kind of look at this, you attack this in a holistic manner, and the integrations bring everything together. Is that what you're saying basically?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you rightly got it. Yes, um, giving an integrated suite, looking at all these
Yeah.
three integrated component,
Yeah.
and getting deeper into each of these areas. So it's not just about the integrated suite. We get deeper into each of these areas, right? Like say, for example, take billing, right? So we have been solving the problem for the last 14 years, and we still have a lot of things that we work upon. And the way we visualize it is,
Yeah.
yeah, we still have a lot of things to do in billing, right? So in
Okay.
each of these areas, we get deeper, be it billing or spend or the inventory management. So each of these areas, we get deeper. Keep embedding new functionalities as they come in, like say, for example, AI, right? So we see how we can actually bring in AI and give a lot of benefits to our customers.
Yeah.
So the products are continuously enhanced, and we get deeper and deeper, which actually is a huge differentiator.
Okay, that's great. So, I've said this before, the ERP puzzle is a complex one, and spend management and enterprise billing apps both play critical roles here. Let's talk first, if we can, Siva, about Zoho's enterprise grade billing. So, this is part of the broader Zoho Finance suite, which I think now boasts about 12 or a little more products, and it extends Zoho's ERP platform. What does Zoho's enterprise grade billing offering do that makes these new announcements so exciting?
So, couple of things. One is we solve the problem end to end, right? When it comes to billing, we solve the problem. That is right from creating your product catalog to managing your entire billing life cycle, to customer life cycle management, to collections, CPQ, revenue management, to analytics. So we solve the problem end to end. So a customer who is actually using our billing product can be relieved that they are meeting all the compliance requirements in
Okay.
the jurisdiction that we support, right? So this is one, and we also serve all the segments of the customer. So when it comes to the finance suite, we started with billing in 2007, towards the end of 2007. So we have been into it for the last 18 years. So we started with a simple invoicing software. Okay, so that was the first product in the finance suite, and which was predominantly focused on the lower end of the segment, like the solopreneurs and freelancers who
Right.
actually
Sure.
send out invoices and collect payments. So that's how we got started. From all the way serving those customers to maturing the product, of course, a different edition of the product to handle the SMEs, and then from there, addressing the problems, billing problems for the enterprises, we have come a long way. So we have different editions of the product, which actually focuses on different segment, but we
Okay.
actually serve the entire segment.
Okay. And I know that, to me, one of a couple of things that I'm most excited about here are, the support for tax regulations, which change all the time. And, when you're looking at this from a global standpoint, that's a big burden, I think, for finance operations. And the regulatory compliance piece of this puzzle, that's built in as well. Isn't that fairly, kind of a big deal?
Yes, see, this is a big headache, right?
Yeah.
So the tax rate changes based on what I sell and to which customer I sell, from where
Right.
the customer is coming from, right? So
Right.
based on this, there can be n number of combinations. So there can be a few exempted items. There can be items where actually the tax rates differs widely, and maybe the customer can be a domestic customer or a local customer for whom a different rate applies, and there can be an international customer for whom a
Right.
completely different rate applies, right? So for a merchant or a company to to know all this, to address all this is a big headache, right? On the other hand, if you have a software which can handle all these complexities for you, you don't have to worry about any of these things, right?
Right.
And whenever the tax rate changes or whenever the laws changes, if the software can automatically update itself, then it can actually give a huge benefit for the customers. They don't
Sure.
have to think about or worry about any of these changes, right? And if you actually look at it, this compliance and regulations are only getting a lot more difficult, right?
Yeah.
Like say for example, look at e-invoicing, right? Just a few years ago, people would, if I talk about e-invoicing, people would be like, oh, okay, what is e-invoicing, right? But now country after country are implementing this e-invoicing, right? So
Yeah.
where actually the invoices has to be registered, the government should know the complete details of the invoice and all those things, right? So how can a business be compliant with all of this? If the software can address these requirements, the e-invoicing requirements or whatever the law, whenever the law changes, if the software can automatically update itself and address all these requirements, then it's a godsend for those customers. So that's exactly what we do.
Right.
So take all the burden ourselves and relieve the customers of all these pains. And we have 15 country specific editions today, right from editions for United States of America to Canada to Mexico to the countries in the GCC area, India, various countries in Africa, edition for Germany, UK, and all these things.
Okay.
So in these countries, we actually take care of the compliance requirement. We look at the law, we understand the law, and we implement them in the product, so the customers can actually uh, focus on their business.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's what I own a company. That's exactly what I want. I want to be able to focus on the things that I'm good at and, let the things that I'm not so good at be taken care of. People who are smarter than me and who are using technology tools that help make that process easier. So I'm a fan. One quick question remaining on this topic. There's some flexible pricing built in, isn't there, that, kind of allows you to respond pretty quickly to market needs? Can you talk with me about that?
Yeah, see, the billing system actually should be very flexible to your requirements. It should not be like very rigid. So based on various rules, you should be able to change your pricing. Like say, for example, you may be selling it in multiple countries. So you may
Okay.
need pricing in different countries, different currencies. And the rule by which you derive the pricing for different countries would be very different. Like say, for example, we as Zoho sell in different countries. The way we price it in different markets is very different. Like say, for example, when we have to sell it in an African country, the pricing scheme is very different from when you actually sell it in a European country versus
Okay.
the United States of America, right? And now with all these tariffs, the rules, regulations, and all those things, this is becoming a requirement, right? Different prices in different countries.
Right.
All these needs to be handled by the product, right? So pricing flexibility and various configurations, right? Say for example, the customer should be able to configure the workflow of an invoice, right? You should be able to automate various things in the invoice workflow. So all these things should be built within the system,
Okay.
so the customer can take advantage of it.
Excellent. I'm a fan. So then now let's turn to the unified spend platform, which is Zoho Spend. This is designed to help kind of do away with those disconnected spend strands that are so common throughout organizations and focus on all the money that's going out of the business into a single system. Walk me through Zoho's rationale here, if you would.
Yeah. So till now, I've been talking about the billing system, which actually focuses on the money coming into the business.
Right?
While taking care of the money coming into the business is important, it is also important to have strict controls over the money that is going out of the business, right?
Right.
So this is where we actually have a lot of tools which actually can give complete control to the business on this aspect.
Okay.
So we started with expense reporting product. So where actually employees who travel or who spend for various reasons can actually quickly create an expense report and submit this report for approval, right? So this is just the simpler version. The product can handle a lot more complex use cases. Like say for example, I don't have to. That is, employees don't have to manually enter the expenses. They just take a snap of it, and everything is automatically captured
Right.
by the expense reporting software. And there can be a lot of workflows. There can be complex approval systems. Like say for example, if the spend is in this particular category, person A has to approve, or if it is in a different category, maybe manager B has to approve, or it has to go for multiple levels of approvals. So all these complexities are handled by the expense reporting product. So different companies can have different policies, different podiums based on jurisdiction. Like say for example, a company can be a global company. They will have a podium defined based on the country, and the system has to handle all this, and policies based on the country. Everything has to be handled. So
Yeah.
that's what the expense reporting product do. So that is how we got started with the spend management suite.
Okay.
And then obviously the next obvious extension is the travel part. So we have integrated with various travel companies. So the inventories are shown right within the product. So you can book your entire travel thing, right from flight to your hotels to cabs and all those things. So travel is a natural extension after that.
Hmm.
And then the next major piece of expense for any company is the payroll. So we have also brought in payroll into it. Most of the spend management suite today don't focus on the payroll aspect because that is one of the most complex piece. Like
Yeah.
say for example, take USA, right? There are 15 different states with all tax complexities, right? You will
Yes.
have county level, you will have state level, all these
Yes.
taxes. So payroll is one of the most complex piece. So we have solved the piece and we have brought it into the spend management suite of products. And then you have the complete AP automation. By API, I refer to the accounts payable, right? So so just like the employee expenses, the various payments that you make to the vendor, the workflows and all everything associated with it, the purchase
Yeah.
order, the payment workflows, all those things we handle. And the next most important complex part is the procurement management system. So we also have a product for procure to pay, all the way from procurement to making the payments to the vendors. Again, here you have all the complex requirements, like requirements for onboarding the vendors, managing the contract,
Right.
the NPAs, the vendor rating, and making the payments to the vendors and all those things. So we handle it pretty much end to end. And one more important piece here is, see, whatever I spoke about are controls, right? Controls that you
Right.
can actually enforce on the spend. Another most important control is to actually enforce the control before even the spend happens. So this is where actually the cards play an important role. So we also issue cards, Zoho cards, to our customers, where actually the administrator can enforce various rules as to what is the area that a card can be used, what is the
Sure.
limit, and all those things. So instead of doing a lot of post-mortem analysis, spend can be controlled at the source,
At the
right?
front end. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So at the right at the place where the employees make their spend.
Yeah.
So pretty much a comprehensive suite to have complete control over the spend. So that's how we
Yeah.
help our customers.
Okay, so the platform is a place that I can go if I'm in finance operations and I need to be able to, look across the spectrum, right? I can go into the platform and see travel expense, payroll expense, procurement, what's happening there, accounts payable information, and all that sort of. So it's all sort of under one roof, if you will. Is that right?
Yes. So
Okay.
that's the power of the integrated suite. And as
Yeah.
I said before, the information is not siloed. Like say for example, let's say like a company is using all these products, right? And all these products from different vendors. One for say travel and expense management, another for your AP automation, and another company for the cards and all those things, right? Then the informations will be siloed, and
Right.
the company will not be able to do a deeper analysis. Now with all this AI and unified data layer across all these, it's very easy to get that insights. You can have a engine which actually can go through all this data, this entire system of records, and give complete intelligence. So
Yeah.
that's the power. So
Yeah.
that's the power of the integrated suite.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Civa, as with most new products, it's typical to have these running in beta with customers before making them generally available. And I know that the Zoho team has been doing this for the last number of months with these new products. Do you have any feedback, any intel that you can share with us? Anonymizing customers, of course, but any information that you could share about what you saw in those betas, that would be really interesting to hear.
Yeah. See, Zoho has been into business for the last several years. The biggest advantage of this is like we have a steady pool of customers who actually look for various things.
Right.
So the best part is before even launching the product, there are customers who are asking us for certain things. So we actually give them those products. We ask them to try, and once they get the confidence, they actually deploy it in the production. That is before even the official launch,
Right.
and we work very closely with these customers. So there is a good feedback cycle. So the customer actually gives us some feedback. We work on the feedback, enhance it, give it back to the customer, so the customer actually tries it again. And so there is a continuous feedback loop. And the early customers, they are
Right.
happy that they have been consulted, and the product is taking shape with their inputs and feedback. So the customers are happy, and the product also enhances. So certain products we generally have, at our scale, we even have say hundreds, and in certain cases even thousands of customers before even we actually make an announcement. Like say for example, Zoho Payments is one good example where we actually onboarded more than 5,000 customers before even the official launch of the product.
Yeah.
So it's like we learn a lot from the customer, and the customer also gets a lot of benefit.
Sure.
So it's a feedback loop, and we have, as I said, we have customers across all the segment. We have customers who send millions of invoices. In fact, we have one customer who actually sends about 20 million invoices a year, right? So large customers, we work closely with them to make sure that the product scales, particularly during the critical times. So different businesses have different requirements. Certain businesses can be
Right.
seasonal. Like say, for example, you take the popular marketplaces, right? There can be a big $1 billion sale, or Black Friday, right? So you have
Right.
all these requirements. So you work very closely with the customer, make sure that the product is there to help them. There are no hiccups. Make sure that the flow is smooth. It scales based on the customer requirements. So we work very closely with them. So this way the customers are happy. And in fact, before even the launch, they actually give us the testimonial, and they actually spread the word, right? They actually do the marketing for us. So
That's the
so
best.
yeah, that's the best position to be in.
Yeah, that's a great success story. I love it. So, Siva, I know that AI is embedded across finance and operations in many, many ways. Can you hit on some of the highlights for me?
Yeah. So today it's all about AI, right? So we see how AI can be embedded into the product to help the customers. And one important distinction is we don't look at AI as a feature and show it through the throat of the customer, right? We
Yeah.
don't push it aggressively to the customers. So we have a lot of features. We actually, in fact, look at AI as an infra, just like your data centers and all those
Right.
things. AI is just an infra.
Right.
Uh, which all the products can use, and get a lot of benefits and pass these benefits to the customer. So that's the way we actually look at it. So if you actually look at AI, what we do is like we can actually bucket it into various categories. So that's the way we actually look at it. One is like how can we use AI for automation, right? So we do various things here. Like say for example, we have something called Ask Zia, where
Hmm.
actually customers can ask a lot of questions to the Zia, and get their answers for those questions.
Well, and things like, I mean, for the benefit of our audience, this is things like, you know, hey Zia, I need to create an invoice to send to customer XYZ, or send me a reminder that, or, can you check outstanding invoices for me? I mean, and you can do this in natural language queries, right? I mean, I think that's something that makes it incredibly valuable.
Correct. So that
Yeah.
is Ask Zia. So you can actually ask Zia to do various things for you. We also have
Right.
Zia agent to do various things. Like say for example, you can co-create an invoice along with the agent, right? So you can actually give control to the agent for specific areas, and you can take back controls wherever you need. You can co-create things, and you can co-create different reports using the agent. Again, as you rightly said, using the natural language, I can actually create reports using AI, and get those reports from the system.
Right.
So that is one area. This is all about automation. Then we actually see how we can actually provide a lot of insights to the customers. So we also see how AI can actually provide a lot of insights to the customers. So the AI actually can look at the reports. It can actually give insights based on those reports instead of human actually deciphering all those reports and see and interpret the report. AI can
Right.
actually interpret the report for the customer, and it can actually throw a lot of insights. The
Well, and
forecast.
things like, yeah, but things like detections, right? And
Yes.
forecasts and quick snapshots across the P&L landscape and things like that. I mean, I know sitting through one of the briefings when we walked through a demo, those were things that were really, show me where we are on unpaid bills and things like that. I think that kind of information at your fingertips, being gathered and delivered via AI is incredibly attractive.
Yeah, and it can also summarize things for me. Like, say, for example, I have a lot of reports, right? I can ask the AI agent to summarize the reports for me so that I get the insights very quickly. Like, say, for example, I can be busy with few other things instead of studying the entire report. I can just ask the AI
Right.
agent to summarize the report, and I
Yeah.
get a complete summary of the report. So that's the
Good.
second area that we
Yeah.
use AI for. And the
Yeah.
third area is, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, no, no. Go right ahead.
Yeah, and the third area is we actually use AI to actually look at the anomalies and see how we can actually use it for the fraud detection. So anomalies and the fraud detection is another key area. So we can there is AI can actually look at the data very easily. It can do various things. It can actually relate various records. Like say, for example, you mark one transaction as fraudulent. It can actually see like who is the customer involved in it, who is the merchant involved in it, and based on that, it can actually go to the database, correlate various things, and then it can actually create clusters of the related records. Based on that, we can very easily narrow down as to okay, this is the cluster in which the fraud is happening. So these are the related merchants
Okay.
or customers. So how should I handle these customers? So based on that, we can actually come up with rankings, ranking for the merchant, ranking for the transactions, and all those things. Like say, for example, in payments, this becomes very critical.
Yeah.
Ranking a merchant, you can actually there can be fraudulent merchants. There can be customers who use the credit card frauds. So we can actually rank transactions. We can actually rank the merchants, give scores to the transactions and the merchants, and then the AI engine can dynamically decide to allow a transactions or not. So that's the third major area. Fourth major area, we
Mhm.
also use it for reconciliation and audits. Right, AI engine can very easily reconcile based on the past history.
Yeah.
So we use it for reconciliation. We use it for audits, to look deep into data, flag the various things. Like say, for example, today it is very easy to submit fake bills in the AI world, right? You can very easily use a bill, and then you can ask AI engine to generate 100 different bills like that, and then you can submit it in your expense report. It is very difficult for a human to identify all this, whereas actually AI agent can actually look into the details and identify the duplicates or the
Right.
fraudulent bill. So we employ AI extensively for it. So these are some of the areas, and another important area where we actually use AI is for the customizations, right? See, as I said, the requirements for the various businesses are very different. So they have to customize the product. Our products are not just end user products. These are platforms which actually can be customized.
Yeah.
So there is complete no code, low code customization. So today, over and above this no code, low code customization, we also help customization through AI. So using my natural language, I can even create a custom module. Just to give you an example, like say for example, you want an asset tracking system that needs to be attached with inventory, right? You can very easily create a custom module for it using AI, using natural language. So most of the work gets done, the code gets generated, and then we can actually do a bit of a customization on it. So creating custom modules like that, or you want to create a custom field where actually the data for this field can be based on various other things. Like say, for example, I can have AI which can actually summarize three different fields and give it as an input to this particular field. So all these things can be done. Um, uh,
Yeah.
AI summary and all those things. So we also use AI extensively for customization. So this is how we use it. And again, AI is contextually embedded into the product. So it's we don't look at AI very differently or separately.
Yeah.
AI, it's contextually embedded into the various workflows that we have in each of our products.
Yeah. I like to think of it as it's not a feature, it's a foundation.
Correct.
Yeah.
Exactly. You
And
got it right.
one thing that stood out from the recent briefing on this topic, Siva, is, so we're looking at things from a very broad scope here, but think about, what I thought was impressive. Say I get my pay slip and I'm confused by it. Well, can I ask Zia to help explain what my payslip means so that I don't have to go to someone in HR or someone in accounting to get the help that I need as an employee? I can get my own questions answered pretty quickly and easily. Did I get that right?
Excellent, excellent. Right, you are right. So I was talking about the second bucket where actually we use AI to give a lot of insights. The
Yeah.
insights can be based on the reports, or I can have something like, "Hey, I have my payslip. I don't understand what this is.
Right.
Can you just explain to me as to what this means?" So AI can actually get into the details, and it can give me complete details of the breakup, the various components in the salary, and
Yeah.
all those things. So I don't, as you rightly said, I don't have to go to HR. The AI engine
Well,
can do it
and
for me.
and I think that when you think about that, for me, Siva, why that sort of stayed in my brain is that when you're talking about an enterprise with, you know, 20,000 employees or 50,000 employees or whatever, that's no small thing, and people do have questions. And by the way, nobody wants to have to call HR or accounting, right? I want to be able to figure this out on my own and get the answers that I need, or I don't want to be embarrassed and have somebody think I'm a dummy for not understanding this or whatever. So when you think about this, I mean, that's just sounds like a small one-off example, but the more employees that you're talking about, I think the more valuable something like this really becomes in terms of a, a, a better employee experience, and then a better for the employee that has questions, but also relieving the burden of asking some of those relatively routine questions, of answering those relatively routine questions from other members of your team. So I think that's a huge benefit.
Yeah, so that's an excellent point. And one more point that I would like to add to this is you look at the Gen Z, right? They are more comfortable talking to a AI engine than to a human.
Yeah.
Have noticed this several times, right? So you tell them like, hey, yeah, the software is powered with AI, and if you have any questions, you can just ask AI. They are more comfortable asking the questions, getting things clarified, than actually talking to a human. So
Yeah.
this is the future.
Well, by the way, I'm Gen X, and I'd much rather talk with AI than another human for certain things. So I totally get it. So, you've touched on this a little bit before, Siva, but I want to talk about connections to front office software and other integrations. So I'm assuming there are Zoho specific connections, but what about third-party integrations?
See, we are a very open system. We integrate with anyone. So first and foremost, we have very powerful mechanisms through which we can integrate the product. We have a very powerful set of APIs and other ways through which you can easily pull out the data, and you can also push in the data, right? So we definitely integrate with a lot of Zoho products. All the Zoho products are integrated.
Sure.
Over and above that, we also integrate with the other systems. So we believe in this concept of co-opetition, where actually we compete with certain people within certain categories, but we also actually integrate with them in other categories. Like say, for example, take Google or Microsoft, right? We compete with them in the communication and collaboration suite. Our
Sure.
workplace suite of products compete with them. On the other hand, if you actually look at the finance products, we have very deep integration with both Google and Microsoft, right? So we integrate deeply, and being part of the finance and operations team, we actually integrate deeply with both the upstream and the downstream products. We integrate with different CRM softwares, different help desk related software. Similarly, we also integrate with the accounting products and all those.
Okay.
One good example is you take the travel and expense management product, right? So though we have an accounting solution, which is deeply integrated to the travel and expense management product,
Hmm.
we also integrate this travel and expense management product with other accounting solutions, which actually compete with Zoho books. Okay, so this way we are very open, and we actually go and do the integration ourselves. So we strongly believe in giving the choice to the customer. So ultimately,
Yeah.
it is for the customer to decide what they want to use, and we try to give them all the choices that are
Yeah.
possible.
I think that's a really important part of the Zoho value prop, in my opinion, from the outside looking in anyway. So let's talk quickly, if we could, Siva, about Zoho's approach to AI in finance. So, this has kind of been the topic of this entire conversation, but this is something that you've been personally immersed in for a very long time. What user needs did you see that drove your focus and your innovation here?
See, the thing is, today AI, as I said before, we actually don't look at AI as a feature. It's an infra, right?
Right?
So AI has to be embedded into the product. Today, customers actually don't ask for something, but they do expect the system to be AI powered, right? So see, today's generation, they are actually used to the chat GPT and
Sure.
all these, right? So they expect AI to be part of the product, well embedded, and use it for various use cases. So we constantly look at the customer's requirements. So the customers don't ask us, but we actually constantly look at their requirements. So we have a separate labs team which actually focus on the AI. So we continuously watch the development that happens there and see how it can be contextually embedded into the product. So various use cases, we see how it can be embedded into the product. So there are a lot of experiments that goes on. Like
Sure.
say for example, just like what Amazon did, we also tried whether the POS system that we have can automatically identify the items in the basket and create a bill for it, right? So these are various experiments that goes on. We continuously are looking at all those experiments. So one is like we look at what is happening in the labs, AI labs, and the other thing is like we actually look at what are the requirements for the customers, and then our job is to marry these two. So
Right.
yeah, this particular enhancements have come in, and how can we actually map it to the this particular requirement of the customers? This way, actually, AI gets contextually embedded, and there is nothing like it's a different layer, right? Or we don't charge anything extra for the customer. We know
Right.
like, okay, this is the requirement, and this can be mapped with this particular enhancement, and we map it for them.
I like it. I like it. So, as we wrap this episode, Siva, one thing I'm not sure people realize is that Zoho does business all over the world and always has. What are you seeing from a global traction standpoint on the finance app side? And what is driving your passion to continue to invest in these regions?
So we are seeing excellent traction across the world, particularly the traction in America has increased a lot, and we have been doing a lot of activities in America.
Right?
The interest for the finance suite is steadily increasing in the Americas. When I say Americas, both US and Canada.
Yeah.
Excellent interest in the LATAM region. Mexico, we are actually seeing very good growth. India, yes, and the Middle East is one of the hottest market for us, and we are also seeing good traction in the African region. So that's another hotbed for us. So we are seeing excellent traction across the globe. Primarily because the product is getting richer in functionalities, it is getting deeper with a lot of features, and it is affordable, right? In countries like in African countries, this is one of the most important requirement. The product has to be
Right.
affordable. So we are seeing excellent traction, and the best part is like we learn from various countries. So it's not like one country where we are focused on. So we learn, and these learnings we actually spread it out globally. Like say for example, we might actually learn something specifically from America and see how we can actually
Yeah.
give it to a customer in say Africa, right? So we constantly learn from all these global experiences, and we implement what makes sense for a specific market. And this actually gives an excellent experience for our customers across the globe.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it makes perfect sense. Well,
Like
that,
one good example is e-invoicing, right? So we actually have been implementing e-invoicing for various regions. So when this law becomes, when this law actually is enforced by the government, the customers in a region are pleasantly surprised when we tell them like, hey, we have it covered for you, don't worry about it.
you don't have
We
to
have the
worry about it.
we,
We've
we have
got
an
you.
experience. Yes, we have the experience of implementing in LATAM. We have the experience
Yeah.
of implementing elsewhere in the world, and we know all the use cases. And when this is enforced in your region, yes, we have it covered. Don't worry about it. So
Uh,
this actually gives the customers the comfort.
yeah.
One good example is we are ready with e-invoicing in Belgium as it is getting enforced, and various other European countries. And this is based on the experience that we have had in the various LATAM countries and India, right? So we have this experience, and the customers are really happy when we tell them like, you have these features, you don't have to worry about it. You will be compliant right from the day one.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's a compelling value prop, that's for sure. Well, that is a wrap for this episode of Experience Matters. Thanks to Civa Iswaran, Global Head, Zoho Finance and Operations, for joining me today and taking us on a tour through Zoho's moves to tackle finance and operations with the launch of enterprise billing and spend management, the company's broad ERP vision, and how the company is putting AI power in the hands of customers from a foundational standpoint to help streamline enterprise finance and ops. I'm your host, Shelley Kramer, Principal Analyst here at Kramer&Co. Thanks for tuning in to Experience Matters. And Civa, thanks to you so much for joining me today.
Thanks, Shelly. I enjoyed this conversation. Thanks for having me in the show.
It was great, and you'll be back.